Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tip Tuesday. Jeffrey Nance here with you. We're going to finish up our series here on running your race. And today's topic is about the results. So, how do we really think about results? How does that line up with our goals? How do we assess our goals? And then, how do we assess where we are in the process? Are we moving forward? Are we doing well? Are we putting ourselves in a position to continue to do these types of things moving forward and to continue to see the kind of results that we desire to see? So, let's talk a little bit about running. So, from a very practical standpoint, as I run and I try to avoid injury and I work through the process and get to a place where I can actually do it and do it with any sense of consistency. Those are things that we've all talked about. How do I know when I'm actually achieving results? There's a couple of things I ought to see. One is I ought to feel like it's making a difference. In what way? Well, I mean, I ought to feel better after running. It ought to bring that sense that, hey, all right, you know, running a mile used to be hard. It's not as hard. Now, it's not easy, but it's not as hard anymore. I can kind of feel like I wasn't breathing as heavily that time. So I'm making progress. And I want to tell you guys, it's really important that whether we're doing something physical or whether we're talking about trading here, and we are talking about both here for our series here on this Tip Tuesday, is to realize that we really ought to be motivated by our goals. And as you make progress, you ought to celebrate progress. Progress is one of those things where you ought to see it. And then if you can do it to a great enough extent, then other people might even notice it. But I want to really encourage you guys to see progress, and not only just to see progress, but to celebrate progress. And you might think about that and go, well, Jeffrey, it's not really that big. I'm not really doing that much. So let's just say you have set a really kind of small financial goal, but you're meeting it. Well, what I would say is, okay, great, celebrate it. You've reached your goal. This ought to be a good thing. Now let's assess. Can we do it again? You did it for 2 months in a row. That's a big deal. I'd be excited about that. Can you do it 3 months in a row? That's a big deal. What about 4 months in a row? Wow. Because if you can do it 4 months in a row, you're really starting to set up not just the ability to prove to yourself that you can do it, but you've established habits that are probably going to carry over for a long period of time. So whether you have a small goal that seems maybe insignificant to be reaching it, or whether you have a really high goal, one of the things I really want you guys to do is to say, look, goals ought to motivate, not discourage. So if you're looking at your results and you're going, my results aren't what I want, I'm not reaching my goals, then what's actually happening is you're actually becoming discouraged by having those goals. And we don't want that. Now, it may be a necessary part of your journey because the reality is you may need to tweak some things and do some things differently or get some help in certain areas or think through things differently. I mean, you may need to really make a major change in the way that you approach trading. You say, Jeffrey, I've wanted to do this strategy, but it's really not working. It may be that you have to come to the reality that I may need to do something different. And if that's what it takes, guys, then we need to be honest with ourselves and go, then I need to be willing to try it. Okay. So as you guys move forward in your trading journey, set goals that are realistic, but celebrate reaching goals. And then what I hope that you find is that meeting those goals motivates you and moves you forward to want to set new goals to be able to go further. All right. So let's go back to our running illustration. What I've heard from people, all right, that end up running long distances is they actually get to a point where they enjoy running. Now, I've told you guys I don't really enjoy running. So whether I'm running half a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, it's like, all right, I did it. That's it. That's as far as I want to go. Now, you may have something similar in your mind where you say, yeah, you know what? Financially, if I reached X amount of dollars, I'd be kind of like, it's good. I'm good. Like I may want to just take it easy now. I may not want to do what I'm doing. I may want to do things differently. I may want to kick back and maybe do some longer term investing. I may want to put some money in. I know it sounds crazy, like some CDs, because I built up enough where I could kind of do pretty well with just what I'd be making off of that. Well, that's great, guys, because that is a sign of progress. But before we get to that point, we're going to have to push ourselves and work harder to achieve one level, next level, the level after that. And that should be a good thing. So don't become discouraged by reaching goals. Goals ought to motivate, and then goals ought to be celebrated. So the next thing I would say about your results is be honest about your results. If they're not what you want to be seeing, then be humble enough to pull over on the side of the road and ask for help. And this is hard to do. But again, we look to the Bible, right? And the Bible says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. And when you think about what that really means is a lot of times we don't ask for help because we're doing the very opposite of what that says. We are being selfish. We aren't being humble. And we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we have to admit, you know what, maybe I do need help. Maybe I do need to ask for assistance. But let me ask you guys this. If you feel like that's you and you're out there and you're going like, yeah, Geoffrey, that's me. I'm just one of those guys. I don't really want to ask for help. I want to do it on my own. I want to pull myself on my own bootstraps, if you will. That's fine if it's working for you. Okay. But if it's not, and this is a humbling season in your life, then take advantage of that, right? Take advantage of the humbling element and aspects of what God is trying to do in your life right now. So be willing to ask help. We want to help you here at Trailer. We want to help you. We want to see you do well. We want to put you in a position to do well. We're trying to offer as much education as we can to make that possible for you. But if that's not working, or it's not working yet, let's use that word, YET, yet. All right? Because I think we have to keep this in mind. We may not be reaching our goals, but it doesn't mean we'll never reach our goals. Now, if we quit, we won't reach our goals. It's that simple. It really is. Right? Because some people go, well, it's not really working for me, and I guess trading's not my thing. Well, what I would say is, what if trading is not your thing yet? And really what God is wanting you to do is just keep going and work through the hard things. Because one of the things, and I just mentioned this, I was out in San Diego and I preached on Sunday morning. And one of the things I said to them is that we have this idea that if we're doing God's will, that everything is easy. And I don't know where that came from, because it's certainly not biblical. All right. Now, I do know that the word talks about that God will prepare a straight path for us and things like that. But when you think about the things, like, let's go Old Testament here, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those guys were in God's will, and because they were doing God's will, they threw him in a fiery furnace. They tried to kill him. Daniel was doing God's will, and because he was doing God's will, they threw him in a lion's den. At least twice, New Testament, right? Jesus tells his disciples to get out into a boat, and a storm comes up. Okay? So one time he's with them, he's down there sleeping, but he said, let's get in a boat, let's go across, and a storm comes up, and they think they're going to die. Another time, he tells them to go across the lake. This big storm comes up, and he comes walking to them on water. Twice. All right? They're out there doing what Jesus told them to do, and yet they run into a storm. Listen, guys, sometimes you might be running into a storm because it's consequences for sin in your life. But if you're not sinning and you're really trying to do things the right way and it's hard, that doesn't mean that it's not God's will. It just may mean that God wants you to persevere because he's trying to teach you some stuff in the midst of this. That does happen. Okay. And the way of looking at this is maybe God's wanting to do something great at the end of that. Well, if we quit, we'll never know whether or not we were really going to be good or not. So what I would say is before you get anywhere close to that point where you're even considering quitting, ask yourself, did I really do everything I could? Did I get as much help as I needed? Did I train as hard as I should have to really put myself in a position, or have I convinced myself I did everything I was supposed to do without really assessing whether or not that's true? Did I really put in the effort? Did I really get all the education? Did I really apply it as well as I should have? Or am I really just kind of saying that to make me feel better about myself despite my results? We want you to have good results, guys. We really do, right? You want to have good results. We want the same thing. So what I would encourage you guys to do, all right, is to really be honest with yourself. Where are you? Are you moving forward? Because even if you're just making steps forward, and right now that seems tedious and it seems painful, but you're moving forward, that's good. You're going forward, right? And you never know at some point that you might just pick it up and then all of a sudden you're just out there and you're just like, wow, I'm still going. And I think I can go further. I can push myself. I want to go for a new record. And it ought to be fun. Okay. Trading ought to be fun. Trading is fun when we're making money. Not so much fun when we're not. So let's see how often we can go out there, run this race of trading, and try to have as much fun as we possibly can with it. And then as you assess your results, be honest about your results. Try to celebrate your results, because ultimately that's what we want, right? Because we want to be a blessing to the Lord and a blessing to our family and a blessing to others. And if that's the results that we're achieving, then we're all going to be really excited about this race that we're running here called trading. This is an exciting journey, guys. We want it to be exciting for you. Let us know how we can help you reach your goals. And this is today's Tip Tuesday. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time.